great properties that are well priced are always going to be competitive. So let's be blunt. If your application doesn't include a solid rental history while also showing that the rent would be less than 30 to 35% of your total income for that rental period, the chances are you will fall short if multiple applications are made on the property. Only one applicant is going to be able to win the lease, and it's the agent's job to help the landlord establish who is the best applicant. Now, if you only have missed out on one or two properties, I have some great news. At this stage, you probably don't need to worry too much, especially if the properties that you've been applying for are in a highly competitive area or space. Because when a property is highly desirable and it's presented and priced correctly, there will often be multiple suitable applications, and this can often be a coin flip between winning and losing that home over another equally deserving applicant. On the other hand, if you've applied for lots and lots of rentals across multiple agencies and you're still missing out, then it's more than likely something that you're doing that's preventing you from being offered a property. So you firstly need to make sure that the properties you're applying for are affordable. So asking for a property that will cost over half your income each week towards rent is setting you up for failure. Now, most people understand that after you pay rent, you still have food, gas, electricity, insurances, medication, clothing, and all the other expenses that you can think of. But despite this, we still see applications that, if they were approved, would see both the landlord and the tenant fail sooner or later because of this. Now, I do understand that everyone has a different cost of living, but we need to be mindful that not assessing your income is just plain negligent. So the industry rule of thumb is typically 30 to 35% of your take-home income is the limit of what should be spent on rent. Now, this may mean that you need to look at moving with a roommate or looking at a cheaper property, but if you're trying to go past this threshold, your application is likely not going to be considered by most agencies. If you don't have any rental history, it shouldn't be a shock that some property managers and landlords may hesitate to offer you a lease also. The damages that bad tenants cause can cost thousands, and the applications from otherwise potentially great tenants without rental history can be indistinguishable from the types of predatory people who can financially cripple landlords' lives through their loss of rent and the damages that they've caused. So this means that you have two options. Take a close look at what you include in your application that reduces the perceived risk of renting to you, or apply for properties where the landlord or the property manager would think that the risk-reward benefit of offering you a lease makes sense. So, for example, many of us have had a first rental and had to be given a chance to establish ourselves and our rental history. It was typically very basic, not very flash, but from this we showed that we could pay rent on time, care for the property, and in time establish our own rental history. Now, this might not be the property that you want in every instance, but it is something to consider. If you don't have any rental history, you need to establish under what circumstances would you be the best option for the landlord. Your property selection will impact this, as just applying for every house online also doesn't help your cause. With this in mind, you should be positioned to get in front of the competition and hopefully find a suitable property. I'm Ricky from Real People Real Estate. You can find more of us on our YouTube channel or by subscribing to our podcast available on iTunes and Google Podcasts.